Okay, so as insulting as it might seem, this is to teach you how to read. You're not just gonna read the words. You're gonna be reading to get better at understanding what the words mean. So get to chapter 1 of the book, and then let's get to section 1.1 of the book. All right. Notice that the title of the chapter is biology. The title of the course is biology. And then notice that the section is science and the scientific method. Now, luckily, these are all things that every ninth grade student comes in has heard of. You've heard of science. You've heard of the word biology. Most of you probably know what biology means. And I imagine you also have seen the term scientific method. Hopefully. If not, your middle school teachers haven't been doing their job. Plain and simple. Okay. Unlike reading for English class, you have to give yourself a heads up. You need to have an idea of what you're about to read, because there's so much more content and there's so many more concepts that you're unaware of that are going to be presented to you. In reading for English class, you're just going to get she's angry, he's jealous, really things you know about, have heard about, and have read about prior. Okay, so we look here, and this objective, first of all, the title is a great place to start the setup. And even if you didn't know the terms in the title of the section, you can reflect on it at the end and say, oh, I see what that means now. I see what that means by scientific method. All right, so the other place you can find it is the objectives. What is the writer trying to get me to know? Well, the goal of science, right there. It wants to know, have you learned the goal of science? That's an objective. Okay? How do scientists study the natural world? This could be a little bit bigger for me. There we go. Explain how and why scientists do experiments, and explain what a scientific theory is. Now, unfortunately, there probably should be the objective of what are the steps of the scientific method. I definitely have to add that. Oh, by the way, I wrote this, or at least I've edited this. Now, here's a bunch of vocabulary. Don't bother defining them. Don't define vocabulary just for the sake of defining vocabulary. Learning the vocabulary in context in the chapter is super, super helpful. Now, that might mean you have to, at times, go and find out what that term means, but more than likely you'll be able to see how it should be used because of the way it fits into the chapter, into the paragraph, etc. All right, so let's start here. Remember, you're thinking, I am thinking of learning about science and the scientific method. Science and the scientific method. So that's really what the whole point of this is. Oh, and by the way, this is also how to take notes. So here we are, the blank piece of paper. With a blank piece of paper. I don't know if you could hear that when I talked into the back of that. All right, and I'm going to write down 1.1. Science and scientific method. Now, the first thing you'll notice is I'm a very sloppy writer. Okay? But the second thing you might notice is I abbreviated. I changed it a little bit, and that's hugely important. Now, when I see sci, that's the only thing I think of. Science, duh. It's what I teach. So abbreviate words that you're just going to naturally know. That is going to help you in starting to make this information your own, which becomes extremely important when you understand, or in order for you to understand more than just I've memorized the words. I wrote them right next to each other. All right. So we read the paragraph. Read the whole paragraph. Don't just stop at the bold word. All right. Did you ever wonder why giraffes have such long necks? The birds to sing songs. If you ever asked a question such as these from the natural world, then you were thinking like a scientist. I'm trying to read quickly because this would get really boring. The world of science. So the word science comes from Latin to mean the world of knowledge. Science is a distinctive way of gaining knowledge. Questions and answers, questions and evidence of logic. Science is an exact exciting exploration. So you could be a part of exploration besides your curiosity. All is needed basic understanding of scientists. Think how. Okay, now we have bold word. Beginning of the year, you better at least be writing down the bold words and their meanings. So we see science. So we go back to that. We say, okay, science. That's clearly something I'm going to write down. All right. But I take a note on the word science. It says, is a distinctive way of gaining knowledge about the natural world. Okay. That starts with a question and then tries to answer the question with evidence and logic. Now, some of you would think, all right, I'm going to write that whole thing down. No. Try to think of what it means. It's a way, distinctive. Okay, well, distinct means like a specific. Well, if it's a way, wouldn't that way be a special way? It's not any way. Otherwise, it'd say anyway, right? Okay, so it's a way. It's a way to gain knowledge. When's the last time you used the word gain or gaining? What if you say it's a way of getting knowledge, or even better, it's a way to get knowledge. Get is a shorter word than getting. Okay, and what's that knowledge about? About the natural world. Okay. About the natural world. It sounds like the word nature. Nature. What in the world is not nature? I mean, I guess man-made stuff. But in actuality, what if you had a question about how a machine worked? Wouldn't that be? What if you gained knowledge about how a machine worked? Wouldn't that be science? So I guess maybe it's not just the natural nature world we know, but just like the world. So I don't even know if the word natural is all that important. I don't think you're ever going to see the term unnatural world. I mean, you're talking about ghosts? That wouldn't be very scientific because they don't exist. Okay, so science is a way to get knowledge about the world. Do you see what I did there? I didn't write what's there. I thought it through. I tried to use words I know. I tried to realize some of these words are being fancy because Noams likes to ramble on. All right, so there we go. There's the first note. I'm hoping you can see this. I don't know how well this is going to work. Maybe I'll pause here and see if this works and join up after, re-record or whatever. Okay, but notice a couple of things. First of all, first word I put right to the edge. Okay, science. Blank space below it. I'm not starting the definition right next to it. I went down a line. I put a little dash. Dash is not mandatory. Okay, and then I wrote the definition. I did not bring the second line all the way back here. We want blank space. Writing notes is equally important. It is equally important to have blank space as to have the words. We'll get to that. All right, I just checked it out. It's readable. It's not ideal, but I think you got a good look at it. I'll make sure I hold the paper up closer like it seemed to be easier to read there. Okay, so moving down. The first thing we have for science is that statement. But we read the second question and it says, starts with a question and then tries to answer the question with evidence and logic. Okay. Starts with a question, answers with evidence and logic. All right. So I'm going to put another dash. Starts with a question. Uses. He didn't say uses, but I'm thinking, okay, when you're answering, you're using. Obviously, question, answer. I could put answer uses logic. If you like that, go ahead. This is me, so I'm going to get rid of the word answer. I realize what it's saying. Uses evidence and logic. All right, so here's what I did. All right. Now, the point of this space, okay, I don't know how to do this together at the same time while talking. The point of the space, this blank space, is to make words easier for your eye to get to. The word science sticks out. Do not write anything below that. There's a space above it, there's space to the right of it, there's space to the left of it. That word sticks out. It's a bold word. It sticks out in chapter. It should stick out on your notes. Number 2, a way to get knowledge about the world. You could say to yourself, all right, what's the most important word or words? Way to get knowledge. You could argue you don't even have to put about the world. I mean, what else are you going to be getting knowledge about? Okay. I think the point is it has to be real. Again, we can't do a scientific study of ghosts. There's no such thing. I know some of you are probably like, yes, there is. All right. Second sentence, I broke down. Okay. It's easier for me to see starts with a question. Now, some of you may be, I don't understand what that means, starts with a question. Some of you may need to write, it starts with a question. The process of gaining knowledge starts with a question. But now you're getting very wordy. You're trying to break this down into important words. And the process of breaking it down is what's making it useful to you. And then uses evidence and logic. Right? To answer, you use evidence and logic. The answer uses evidence and logic. The answer requires evidence and logic. It's got to be what you think, what words you choose. But if you just write the words that are there, you haven't done any thinking. You haven't done any trying to make sense of this. Okay. Now, on the quiz, you will see they're all multiple choice. Okay. You'll see the word science. Science is. And you'll see a bunch of definitions. And the job for you would be to say, oh, well, I see the definition. I'm going to write the definition from this textbook, right? If not exactly, very, very closely. And you could say, it's a way of getting knowledge. Good. Now, if I was to be tricky, which I'm not, the point is you getting better at doing this to this stuff here on the paper, on the book, to this. That's the point I'm trying to get you better at. But you could imagine tricky would be a way to get knowledge about the supernatural. No. A way to get knowledge about the world that doesn't use questions. I'm not doing that. I'm not saying I'm not trying to trick you. going to give you some. The other answers are going to be other definitions, terms. So it's really about you going, getting watching, check, done, move on. These quizzes should be quick. Okay. Moving on. The goal of science. The goal of science is to understand the natural world, to achieve the goal. This goal, scientists make certain assumptions. They assume. They assume that nature can be understood through systematic study. Scientific ideas are open to revision. Sound scientific ideas withstand the test of time. Science cannot provide answers to all questions. All right, how about I go scientists' assumptions. And of course, my pen is starting to fade. There, it came back. Number 1. Nature can be understood. It says through systematic study. I really want to stop that sentence here. I don't have room. I can't write small enough to fit it there. Plus, I don't think that's a deal breaker to me. Some of you may be like, I have to, and you would put the rest of it there. But I want that there. This is going to be a list of things. I want these words easier to see. When you write words underneath other words, those words are not difficult to read. You have to read the sentence to get to them. Here, I can see can be understood. Good enough. Can be understood. Second one, open to revision. Now, what are open to revision? Science, science ideas, science thoughts, open to revision. I got rid of the word ideas. I noticed the next two say ideas. Isn't nature being understood like the ideas that is being understood? So you could say, yeah, well, that's logical. Okay. All right. I'm not going to say blank are open to revision. That's not the way I ask questions. Okay? Scientific ideas withstand the test of time. And quickly do the last one. Can't answer everything. Even though the quest is to answer everything, it can't answer everything. Okay, now, I did this way. And my goal is that when I got a list of things, and I know they may have longer words and I've chopped some off, etc. I want it to be easy to say, oh, I can key in on certain words there to help me remember. So I'm going to underline understood, underline vision, and then test of time. Okay. So now I have kind of the key idea from each one of those things. I've chosen what they are. Again, I'm not just writing what's in the book. I'm deciding what words do I want to stand out? What words do I think are going to help me remember? After all, this is a note to you in the future for you to say, what did I do with those notes? What did I do with those notes to make them make more sense? Notes are to be read. Notes are there to be written with thought to help you remember. Okay? Now, we can cruise down and we can see the same stuff moving forward. A scientific law, blah, blah, blah. There's Newton with his little apple tree. By the way, he didn't get hit by an apple. Didn't get hit by anything. He just saw the apple fall. And then we get down here. It's actually going through each of those things. Never mind. Now we get down to the scientific method. All right. And then this was the best image I could find. It's really hard to read. I don't even know, even with my glasses on. But it's a good image, just small. It wouldn't get bigger. All right. There are certain steps to the scientific method, and that's the point. And if we go back to the term systematic study, the systematic study they're talking about is the scientific method. That's the systematic study. Studying, in a certain way, in a certain system. System meaning a regimented way. I knew I was going to talk about scientific method later in the chapter. I knew I would take notes there. And now I make that connection that, that first assumption is being discussed now as the scientific method. So I don't really need that. It's just embedded in it. You can't just go around going, I'm a scientist. I think that thing that fell out of the sky is an angel. You can't do that. You have to say, let me assess, let me observe, let me ask a question about that observation, let me try to say what I think it is in a formal way. Hypothesis. Now let me test my hypothesis. And that's what this is saying. Okay. Now we're going to skip ahead. Again, if you look at these notes, words jump out. They're clean, they're clear. When you take that quiz, you should be able to jump in there and say, which of the following is not assumption? Oh, well, I see that one, I see that one, I see that one, I see that one. Hey, this other one, that's the one that you wrote is an assumption. Oh my God, it's pink. Yeah, that's because it's important. Okay. Whole bunch more information. Let's move on. We're going to go all the way down here. Lots of important stuff here. Lots of important stuff. Oh my God, it's blue. That must be important. Again, I edited this book. All right. Here's the summary. Here's what you should have gotten out of it. Did you take notes on those things? Did you? Did you? No, I can see already. I don't have the steps of the scientific method. I'm going to put them in there. I realize I blew that. Now here's some questions. Now, you're going to take a quiz. We're going to talk about some of these things. I'm going to ask you some questions that you got out of this from your notes. And in class, you'll be writing more notes. Then eventually, you're going to get a worksheet somewhere. Worksheet questions are going to look a lot like these questions. And then you're going to have a test. And those questions are going to look a lot like these questions. Why would I have these questions if I wasn't going to do something with them? And why would I have questions on the test if I didn't already give you a heads up? All right? So go through these questions and say, can I answer this? Do I know, did I get out of this? Did I achieve the objectives? Where is it? Did I achieve these objectives? I hope so. All right. So these are what your notes should look like. You're going to handwrite them. I will not allow electronic notes. Maybe later in the year, I'll give you the option. But when you take the quiz, you can have handwritten notes to take that quiz with. All right? Okay. Hopefully that helped. Hopefully this is something you can go back to, pick up some tips. This really is a walkthrough. I have the document, how to study, how to be successful, how to take notes in the resources tab in Canvas. Those are saying the same things, bulleted, maybe reading both of them, you get a little something out of each. All right? Thanks a lot. I'll see you later.